joining us at the desk, our good friend, attorney Kim Baer. The Baer Law Firm is joining us as we are talking about something that is near and dear to a lot of folks' hearts that gets confusing at times.
It does get confusing. So in the real estate market, what we're seeing these days is because of the downturn in the market and then the fact that a lot of people are having credit issues and so they're not able to get a normal mortgage, we're seeing a lot of homes that are being sold on contract.
Okay.
And that sounds pretty straightforward, but you'd be surprised the number of problems that we're seeing in our office where either the contract isn't clear because all the terms aren't in the contract or it's not even in writing.
No, people don't really do that, do they?
You know, and in Iowa, yeah. So in Iowa, it has to be in writing. So that I have a couple of tips today I want to share with people. So number one, make sure it's in writing. Number two, make sure it's got all of your tips or all of your terms in there. So for instance, if you and I agree that that X amount of the money that I'm paying is going to go towards the balance, or what is the interest rate, let's make sure that all of that's in the contract. You'd be surprised when people come in and say, well, here's my contract, but it doesn't actually have everything that everybody agreed to, and that's really hard to enforce in Iowa. So the other thing that a lot of people don't realize is that those real estate contracts are supposed to be filed with your county recorder, and the reason why that's important is really for both parties. It protects the buyer. So if something comes up with the property, let's say property taxes weren't paid, the seller's not paying the property taxes, you're going to get notice if you're the buyer and you're living there and if your contract has been filed. The other thing that a lot of the sellers don't realize is there's actually fines for not filing it with the county recorder. So it's considered, I think, a misdemeanor, but there's daily fines that can accrue. So
now, is there a fee to file it with the recorder?
Oh yeah, and it's per page. I think it might be $35, $40. So it's doesn't cost a lot, but just really to protect both parties, you want to make sure you do that. So the biggest problem that we're seeing in our office is people have bought these houses on contracts a few years ago, and the seller is pocketing the money and not paying the mortgage. And then what's happening is about a year, 2 years into it, all of a sudden knock, knock, knock on the door by the bank saying, hey, this house is in foreclosure. Here's your 30-day notice.
No way.
Yeah. And you know, so we have a lot of buyers coming into the office saying, what can I do? Well, you know, if the seller doesn't have any money, they've let the house go into foreclosure, you're really kind of out of luck. I mean, we can file a lawsuit, but if we can't collect, what's the point of that?
Right. So
how do you fix that? So what I want to tell people up front when you're signing these things is, first of all, if you're the buyer, see if you can make your payment directly to the mortgage company. See if the seller will agree to that. And if they won't, then put in the contract that the seller is going to give you proof every 30 days, 60 days that they've paid the mortgage. Same thing with property taxes. So that'll help save you a lot of heartache, because a lot of these contracts, people will come in and they'll put down 10 grand and then they'll be making payments. Well, if the house goes into foreclosure, you've lost all your money.
But you're making payments to the original homeowner, though.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
For
and that's
those
the
that
problem.
don't understand what the contract deal is.
Yes. Yeah, okay. So let me just back up. So what the contract deal is literally, it's a contract. If you own a home and let's say for some reason you don't want to sell it through a realtor, maybe you don't have a lot of equity and so you don't want to pay a realtor fee, and I need a home and I don't qualify for a mortgage, you and I can agree that you're going to sell it to me on contract. And typically those contracts will have a period of maybe 4 to 5 years where I'm making payments just to you, and then at the end of that period there'll be a balloon payment. And that's because you want to then close the sale, and I think, okay, within 4 to 5 years I can repair my credit, I'll have enough equity, and I can go get a standard mortgage.
So who is legally the owner of the home at that time?
Well, the legal owner is, you're still the legal owner, because you still have the deed. If you have a mortgage, you still have a mortgage, and I'm making the payments. You know, the other thing that I try to tell people if they come in up front and they're going to do this, and I'm not trying to discourage people from doing this because there's a need in the market for this type of contract. But you want to make sure that you don't fall behind on those payments, because here's another example. Let's say that you have a house and it needs some work and I'm handy, and I say, okay, you know, Lou, I'm going to give you $10,000. I'm going to take this house, and for the next 4 or 5 years I'm going to put sweat equity into it, and it's my house, and I've added a deck, I've finished the basement, and then let's say I lose my job. If I fall behind on the payments, and typically just even 30 days, maybe 60 days, you get to take the house back back, and you get to keep all of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Everything else
All that,
paid.
and the down payment.
And the down payment and everything that was put into it. Yeah. So that's another thing to kind of look at. Do you want to put something in the contract that says, if I forfeit the house, you're going to pay me back some of the money? Maybe you'll give me back my down payment, or maybe you'll give me, because you're going to get the house back.
Right.
So, a lot of it is, it depends on who's negotiating, what the parties will agree to, but these are all tips that you want to be considering.
I'm sure you've seen about every possibility here.
I have, and usually, and then that's one of my other tips. Usually, people come to the lawyer when everything's fallen apart, and then we're trying to salvage a situation, and sometimes it's impossible. So what I want to tell people is, it's fine. I understand nobody wants to pay a lawyer. I get that, because people are cheap, okay. But call your lawyer and say, hey, I've got this contract. How much would you charge me for an hour of time? Most lawyers out there would charge you a couple $100s to review it, ask you a few questions, and say, okay, you're missing this, or you're missing that.
Because they've seen it.
Yeah, they've seen it. They've seen it. They've seen it.
Oh, you forgot about this.
You forgot about this.
And you're dealing with a piece of property that's worth, tens and tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
And if you're only talking a couple $100s, I think it's wise to get that up front so everything's taken care of.
Yeah, Steve, I completely agree, because one of the problems, if it's a mistake that everybody's made, you could lose a house that's worth $100,000. Or you could lose. Sometimes people have a lot of money for a down payment. Sometimes they put down 20 grand. So it's a lot of money at stake. So just call your lawyer and say, hey, how much would you charge me for an hour of your time to review this? So that's a big recommendation that we have.
I remember I used to run the board for 10:40 a.m. at night, and there was a show on. You guys might remember Bruce Williams.
Oh God, the money guy.
Bruce Williams.
Yeah.
I don't know how many thousands of times that guy said, whenever you buy or sell a house, get a lawyer. He said, I don't care what, always consult a lawyer.
Yes.
And I heard him say it hundreds of times.
Yes, and up front, not when there's a problem.
Before a problem starts.
Before a problem. And the same is true, so then keep an eye on property taxes, because a lot of times if the seller's having problems, because sometimes that's why the seller's selling the property. Sometimes it's the seller who's having money problems. So if you're a buyer, you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye, get on the assessor's page, make sure the property taxes are being paid, and because you don't want to lose your house to a tax sale. That's another point. So, and then one other point involves real estate, but it's a little different point, and that is, I'm seeing a lot of people come in who are renting, and they've gotten a 3-day notice to quit. And there seems to be a misconception out there that a 3-day notice to quit means 3 days you need to move out. And that is not the case.
3-day notice to quit, not eviction.
Not eviction. And
right.
so let's say that I'm renting from you. I'm renting an apartment, and I'm late on my rent. And so let's say I'm 5 or 6 days late. And so you're going to give me a notice that says 3-day notice to quit. And in that notice, it should say, I have 3 days to pay you the rent that's owed as well as any late fees. There's a misconception. A lot of people freak out when they get that notice, and they think, oh my gosh, I've got to move out within 3 days. And that's not the case. I'll have people come in and say, I moved, they gave me the 3-day notice, I moved out, and I'm trying to get my deposit. And I said, well, why did you move out? And they told me 3 days I needed to move out, and that's not what that means.
A lot of this has to do with the arcane nature of some of the property law, the terminology, like 3-day notice to quit.
Right.
What's a 3-day notice to pay?
Exactly.
Is what it should be.
Exactly. That's exactly what it should be.
Now, people have any other questions about any of these things? Maybe you got a 3-day notice to quit. They can get a hold of you. How?
Just give us a call at 515-INJURED. We're right across the street from Betts Auditorium.
Easy to find, plenty of parking.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good to see you.
All right, good to see you too.